You're tuned in and now listening to the program Straight Talk with the United Independent Movement. Presented by your host, Professor Aubrey Berger, and co-host, the President of the United Independent Movement, Jacques Tali. With our anchor, Chris Erodes from Port Elizabeth, and from time to time, along with various guests, only here on Joy Radio, every Thursday evening from 6:30 till 8 p.m. Here on this program, where nothing is held back, and where you will get straightforward answers and sincere talk about the daily events in South Africa. Yes, that's what affects every citizen in this country.
You are tuned in here on Joy Radio, your companion and friend in Jesus. The following program is paid for and proudly brought to you by the United Independent Movement. This program contains political content. The views and opinions expressed in this program and broadcasts are those of the UIM and its representatives, and do not necessarily reflect the views and opinions of Joy Radio, its management team, sponsors, the owner or board of directors. This program is paid for by the United Independent Movement, which accepts full responsibility for its content in accordance with the Electoral Act and ICASA regulations. Joy Radio, your companion and friend in Jesus.
Good evening. Yes, you are tuned to Straight Talk with United Independent Movement. Welcome to this evening's edition, and I'm going to jump right into it and introduce our panel this evening. And I want to start on my right top corner and our national spokesperson, Chris Erodes. Evening, Chris, and welcome this evening.
Evening, Prof. Evening, rest of the panel. Evening, South Africa. Yes, thank you. Always a pleasure, and thank you for having me.
And then we go one down, and that is our Secretary General. Ja, die boerseun. Die Afrikaner. En hy is nie meer anderste as Christo Jonk nie. Christo, goeienaand en welkom weer hierdie week saam met ons.
Goeienaand, Prof, en die paneel. En goeienaand luisteraars, ek glo dit gaan vanaand weer 'n baie interessante gesprek wees oor al die wette wat gaan bespreek word. So ja, kom ons kyk hoe loop die aand.
Ja, nee, ek glo ook so, ja. Right, and then we go back over to Port Elizabeth, and there we got Vincent Roberts, who's joining us this evening. He's also a candidate, and I'm going to come back to him now. But just evening, Vincent, welcome, and if I can just once again our condolences from Joy Radio and from the UN family with the passing of your wife. And we know that our Lord and Heavenly Father will carry you through.
Good evening, everybody. Thank you so much. Appreciate it a lot. Yeah, and I'm also looking forward for this debate for tonight. And thank you for having me on your radio show. Thank you so much, guys.
And then, last but not least, is from KwaZulu-Natal. Yes, that is, you all know by now, Ivan Bola. And they've joined us tonight again. Every second week he will be with us, giving us feedback, what is happening in the UIM regarding where the parliament is getting tasked, local municipalities, and so forth. But yeah, we'll get to a bit more of that a bit later. Ivan, welcome and with us once again this evening.
Good evening, Prof. and fellow panelists and all our good listeners. Thank you for tuning in, and I'm looking forward to tonight's discussion. Thank you.
Thank you. Right, let's go back to Vincent. Vincent, I want you to please to introduce yourself properly to the listeners this evening. you are from Port Elizabeth, but you're also a candidate standing in the local government elections there, for this elections, government elections for 2026 slash 2027. Depends if it's going to happen in November or in January. Give us a bit of background, and in what ward will you be representing the United Independent Movement?
Yes, I will be standing for Port Elizabeth, for Ward 7, that's the whole Newton Park area. And that includes Mill Park, Linkside, Kensington, Mancroyd, and Perishville. I'm also a community activist in my area. Safety as well, for my people here. Yeah, I'm standing for the 2026-2027 municipality, because a lot of people have now, since the last 2 years, asked me, listen, you've been saying, are you going to stand? I said, definitely I'm going to stand, because they need the change. They need somebody else to solve the problems and not just give them a short answer. For the last year now, I've been doing and giving this Ward 7 a lot of grief and a little bit uphill about the problems, and which I do not solve out. And I've been taking it up to myself, just trying to solve these problems. I've been solving 50% of the problems here in my areas itself, which is hard. Now I'm battling with the valley, and that is where I'm going to talk later on when it's my turn about the bylaws. But yeah, that is what I'm doing at this moment. I'm going to stand, and if I win, I'm going to give these people the service that they deserve, because they're the taxpayers and they need to get the service which they deserve, and that is what I'm going to give them, a service delivery that they need. Thank you.
Thank you, Vince. I just want to make one correction there. Not if, is when you win. That's how positive we is that it's going to happen.
Definitely, yeah. I am going to win. I am definitely going to win this thing. Definitely, yeah.
That's for sure. Ivan, yeah. Feedback is so important. As you said 2 weeks ago as well, that to enlighten and to educate the listeners out there what the UIM is doing and what we are busy with from a UIM side. And yeah, listeners, if you didn't know it, we do get feedback from Parliament, from ministers, from government, from all the different entities. But I'm going to leave that to Ivan, because that is his forte, to bring us up to speed.
Thank you, Prof. Okay, the most important one is that I was approached to intervene in a rape case in Umlazi, which is the biggest township here in Durban. The perpetrator is well connected to the taxi industry, and I was approached by a gentleman that sits in the Premier's office, and you wouldn't believe this, driving the GBV agenda. I initially approached the SAPS, they acknowledged, and it went no further. I then approached the Parliamentary Portfolio Committee, who just acknowledged, and nothing happened further. And then last night, I petitioned the Speaker's Office of the National Assembly, and I got a response or an acknowledgement this morning, and I said, fine, thank you for the acknowledgement, but we need time frames, and we need to know exactly how the investigation is going to proceed, and we want disciplinary processes to be invoked against those staff that have been complicit. So I got an email this afternoon instructing someone in Durban here that's high ranking in the police services to do that investigation and to report back to Parliament.
Seems we've lost the signal there. Yeah, it seems like we lost a bit of signal. Just bear with us. We are busy trying just to get it back quickly. But in the meantime, while we're busy trying to get the panel back on, let's talk about some of the news headlines, what happened this week. And the one that I want to start with this evening is the one where the Brazilian president actually warns our president of invasion risk if our defense lags. Now, the Brazilian president, Luiz Inácio Lula da Silva, he actually have asked or urged our President Cyril Ramaphosa to strengthen defense cooperation, warning that both countries are vulnerable to foreign invasion, both of them.
This meeting is being recorded.
He said,
So I haven't had the case number and so forth, so I'm pursuing that one. So for now, I think those are the major ones that I will report back. But then again, as I say, it's a big victory for a so-called small party. Thank you, Prof.
Thank you, Alwyn. Right, nuus hooftrekke van die week. Kom ons gaan loer gou 'n bietjie daarin. Ons gaan hom so 'n bietjie mekaar gooi, Afrikaans, Engels. En ek wil begin met die president se besoek in Brasilia. Daar waar hy deur die Brasiliaanse president Luiz Inácio Lula da Silva waar hy hom eintlik aangespoor het vir Ramaphosa om die vir 'n verdedigingssamewerking. Want hy sê, luister, ek moet jou waarsku, ons is albei baie kwesbaar vir aanvalle. Ek weet nie van waar af nie. Ek weet of hulle bang is vir aanvalle van, ek weet nie wat nie. En hy reken hulle met hulle potensiaal kombineer en kyk of hulle kan wapens saam produseer. Saam kan bou. Nou ja, ek weet nie wat wil hulle bou nie, want ek dink hulle het vergeet om te bou. En hy sê, weet jy wat, ons het nie nodig om buitelandse verskaffers te vra vir wapens nie. Nou ja, Suid-Afrika was op 'n stadium gewees wat dit nie nodig was nie. Ons het ons eie goed geproduseer. En Christo kan vir ons, dink boekdele vertel hiervan. Toe ons nog van die beste wapens ter wêreld vervaardig het in Suid-Afrika. Wat ongelukkig nie meer vandag bestaan nie. Ek meen, ons het nie eens meer 'n weermag nie. Christo, miskien kan jy vir ons net so 'n bietjie vir ons so 'n bietjie insaai hierso gee. Wie gaan produseer en wie gaan skep as so ooreenkoms aangegaan word, want ons weet die kennis wat daar was is sekerlik nie meer daar nie.
Ja, Prof, definitief gaan ons niks maak in Suid-Afrika nie. Hulle gaan dalk jy goed steel, maar manufacture nee, dit gaan nie gebeur nie. So ek dink hulle maak staat op die Chinese. As jy kyk na wat aan die gang is, ek dink die hele deal wat hulle gedoen het met die Chinese, die Suid-Afrikaners, weet, as jy kyk hoe arrogant hierdie bestuur is van ons land. Kyk, hulle is verskriklik arrogant. Iets of iemand is agter hulle, dat wat vir hulle so arrogant maak. Ek dink nie dat hulle sal so braaf wees, tensy hulle verskriklik stupid is, wat ek betwyfel. Maar ek dink daar is baie meer betrokke hierby. Maar soos ek sê, Prof, manufacture, nee. Die land is bankrot. Denel en al die plekke wat daar is, jy weet, hulle is leeggesteel. So ek kan nie sien dat daar enigiets gaan gebeur met dit nie. En ek dink Brasilia besef ook maar, weet, hulle is ook maar in die moeilikheid, maar dit maak my net, weet, my kop lekker die mekaar om te verstaan hoekom hierdie oudjies in Suid-Afrika dink hulle moet voorberei vir 'n oorlog. Ek bedoel, as ek hulle was, sou ek maar eerder opgekyk het met versnaakse geleide. Maar wat dink hulle? Weet, ek bedoel, dink hierdie regering van ons, hulle gaan 'n paar roeibote en 'n paar krywans en 'n paar swanger soldate stuur om hierdie mense uit te sorg. Ek bedoel, hulle moet mos oplet wat aangaan in die ooste. Ja, die ouens daar het nie tou toe tou daarmee nie. Daar is nie 'n plek vir tou toe tou nie. Jy sit agter 'n komputertjie en 'n paar mense sit daar in 'n kamer en hulle maak oorlog. So ja, dit is maar my 2 sent prof, ja. Eerstens, manufacture, nee, ek dink nie, die skills is nog in Suid-Afrika prof, die manne is dan. Maar die BEE het veroorsaak dat daai manne nêrens mag gesien word of iets gedoen maak hier, so. Ek dink nie dit kan gebeur nie.
Wel, ten minste het hy erken, het Ramaphosa erken dat verdediging wat die verdediging en lugvaart aanbetref, is Brasilië ver meer gevorderd as Suid-Afrika. Hy erken dit. So, it's a fact that we are more advanced than we are. Actually, he said,
Thinking in prof, het hulle al die hawens wat ons gehad het aan Brasilië verkoop het daai tyd, jy weet.
Ja, dit is
hawens meer as ons het.
Moontlik is dit so, ja. But yeah, when we all heard by now that yesterday the Defence Force was deployed specifically in Joburg, and but there is still no plan. Actually, between SADF and SAPS, how this is going to work. Now, I've read a couple of articles after the deployment of yesterday, when they concentrated up in Johannesburg on free colored areas, and apparently under the supervision, and this is what is written in the news, Defence Force went in and starting with searchings, opening up cupboards, lifting up mattresses, looking under mattresses, ask people if they got drugs, ask them if they got weapons and that kind of things. Well, if somebody asks me, my answer is going to be obviously no, even if I do have, and hope they don't find it. But the fact is that when they were asked in Parliament by the Standing Committee in Parliament, it was quite apparent that there is no plan, absolutely no plan between the South African Police Services and the Army regarding this deployment, because there is no clear strategy framework what can even explain how this operation will function. And we could actually see it yesterday on footage on the different television channels. That you could see it was disorganized. It's completely disorganized. Maybe I'm just too optimistic, because in my days we done it completely in a different manner. But let's see. Let's hope it plays out all for the good. The residents said, yeah, well, they're happy about it, etc. But they were also concerned. They said, we're going to leave just now. Tonight is coming. What's happening then? And when they get withdrawn in March next year, what happens then? So there are still questions what needs to be answered. So I think that is something what we need to keep on our radar, and keep a close eye on it. I'm not a doom prophet, but I can see that short before long, we're going to read that some innocent person will have been shot by somebody of a Defence Force who got trigger happy, because it happened in the past.
Yeah, perfect. I think the biggest problem is logistics. Remember, the police are based in the towns, but 500 soldiers must stay somewhere, in some camp. There must be 3 meals prepared for them. There must be a bed for them, showers, transport. I mean, where is that? Those are the kind of things that you must, that's the most important thing. If you don't feed the soldier, they will feed themselves. And another thing is, I don't think somebody is going to get shot. I don't know if they got ammunition, Prof, but I'm sure somebody is going to get raped, and there's going to be a lot of pregnant women walking around. So that's the other concern that we have. For me, is that, the logistics. I mean, the last time when they were called up to go to Natal, they had to use Alvir Datura because all the vehicles, batteries and wheels were stolen. So, I mean, I don't know the logistics, if there's any actually in place.
Yeah, well, as you know, regarding logistics, I mean, where do they actually stay? Where do they go after they finish? I mean, do they go to Lens? Does it still exist as it should exist? Or do they go all the way to Waterkloof or the old, what's it called now, Tababadanchu, Old Voortrekker Hoogte?
But the biggest problem would be, is there water, Prof?
Yeah, that is the biggest problem because nowhere there's water. Nowhere there's water. Yeah, well, at least there's some big good news at last regarding the state capture. I see that the former ANC MP, Member of Parliament, who actually received the bribes from Bosasa, Vincent Smith, has at last have been sentenced. Although he's only effectively going to serve a 7-year sentence. He was found guilty on numerous charges, but all the sentences running current in current, and with when the suspended sections comes into play as well, it relieves to 7 years. Now, a couple of million what was gone, or what have been received in bribes, 7 years is nothing. Nothing. But at least it's a right direction that we're moving in. But once again, this is not the big fish. The big fish is still swimming out there, not worried about anything. And then I want to come to something, and I mean, this is why actually the whole Mandla Commission was established. Due to a unit what was disbanded, a specialized unit. Now the acting Minister of Police this weekend says he is very happy and he welcomed the establishment of 2 new specialized units in Gauteng that are aimed at combating serious organized crime in the province. Now, the first one is the new structure. Is an expansion of a political assassination task force. This specialized team will focus on investigation political assassinations as well as political motivated murders and political servants. All good and well. Then the second specialized unit will focus on crimes increasingly linked to organized crime networks. It will focus on crime related to kidnapping, extortion, and offences targeting infrastructure projects. These crimes are increasingly linked to organized criminal networks that seek to undermine economic development and public safety. It's all in well, it's all good. What does it mean for us, the normal person on street? Not a lot. Not a lot. Because this is for me more to safeguard the politicians. I may be wrong. If I can
come in over there, if you go back during election times and the times, especially the last 9 months to a year before we're actually going to elections, you find that this government has always made 101 promises of what they're going to do, maybe find one scapegoat, but that's as far as it goes. And they're going to open this task team, that commission, whatever they're going to do. But by the time elections come, people are a little bit more inspired. They then vote for the government, thinking that things are going to come right. And it falls by the wayside. And I must say this poor Vincent Smith, he's going to be the fall guy. And he's a minnow. None of the big fish are going to fall. There's going to be excuses. If you think about this is coming from the Zondo Commission, which is already 6-8 years old already. Now they're only starting to put people into jail now. By this time, this Mr. Smith has probably embezzled hundreds of millions. He'll go to jail, good behavior, 2 years, come out, and he'll be a multi-millionaire enjoying everybody else's money. That's how it works in this country. The justice takes too long, the promises are too many, and the results are too few. That's just my 2 cents, Prof.
I just think, having the specialized units, I always got the same question, or who's going to be in charge of it? We need specialists. I mean, it's the same with the budget and same with everything else. Nothing gets implemented because there are not people who's got the specialities to implement it. So they're going to pick some politician or comrade again to do this. I mean, what happened to the Scorpions? Die Skorpioene, al die manne sit in Bloemfontein sonder 'n werk, maar hulle was flippend goed. Dis die tipe mense wat jy nodig het. Jy het regtig mense nodig wat die job kan doen. Nie gaan betaling kry om, om 'n badge te dra nie. So my persoonlike opinie is hulle kan 50 specialist teams insit. As jy nie die regte mense het vir die regte job nie, gaan daar net eenvoudig niks gebeur nie. En jy weet, as dit net ANC comrades is wat hierdie politieke ouens moet beskerm, gaan hulle 10 teen 1 die moorde pleeg op die arme ander onskuldiges. So, you never know. So.
Yeah, but my concern is, I attended a CPF SAPS community meeting last night in our area. And what actually came out there, and that's why it's all good and well doing with specialized units. Yeah, fine. But that doesn't resolve the problems what we've got. I mean, we got statistic last night for our area, for the Barrage precinct, for example. And they said that the 5 main, the top crimes what we've got, number 1 is hijackings and kidnappings. And to my surprise last night, I was flabbergasted when I heard that we have become, in the area especially where I live, a hijacking hotspot. A hijacking hotspot. And that just as last week, just before the entrance where you come into our little village, our suburb, that there was a hijacking right in front of a control gate. So, yeah, that is scary. That is very scary. Then stock theft in this area is a major problem. And when I questioned this, and I said, now what are SAPS doing about it? Because people are riding around with bakkies and trailers with stock on, who are not branded. The act quite specifically is there that stock needs to be branded. You're not allowed to sell stock at auction if it's not branded, etc. and that. But it happens. And when they said to us, but there's only, I think, 5 stock theft people of a stock theft unit. 5 members who runs it. And they must oversee from Swaney, Ekurhuleni, right through down to the Sibeding area. Now, how can 5 members control something like that? Because apparently the normal police officer at station level hasn't got the training, neither the expertise to deal with stock thefts and to deal with branding, etc. and so forth. That used to be at the States a specialized unit, what was a top specialized unit. It's gone. That is the type of things what needs to be brought back as well. Not just the specialized units to look after politicians in the end of the day. But, as we said, for the province of Gauteng, this precinct of this police station is number 19 on the list of all the police precincts. And that is quite high on. So we're in the top 20. And nationally, we're in the top 25, because we are 24 on that list nationally. On the statistics on this serious crimes. So it's all good and well to say we've got these 2 specialized units that we have established now. The minister is very happy, the acting minister, about it. But I actually thought when he came in with the credentials that they put it out there, that he is somebody who's got a bit of knowledge of law and order and policing and that, but it doesn't seem like to me to that. I
Yes,
guess,
Prof, I see that, but you guys also going to need a specialized vehicle theft division. I see 16 million rands of vehicles disappeared there in your Mfuleni.
yeah, and that is just only the tip of the iceberg. That's only the tip of the iceberg, Christo. And
Apparently, when they drove out of the new, what's the name, the shop, they actually broke down and they disappeared from there.
yeah, apparently. Yeah, and apparently some of them didn't even came out of there because they just disappeared before the time. But it was signed for them. Somebody did receive him, I believe. So we will see. We will, down here on our side, we're going to keep a close eye on that investigation, see what's going to happen. And then we'll keep the public up to date on that. But I see in the meantime, the Rose have joined us as well. It's not just only the phones on tonight. Hello, Clara. Welcome, Clara.
Goeienaand, good evening, everyone. I'm very glad to be with you. Hope you all had a wonderful day. Good evening, listeners.
I'm glad that you're at least safe back at home after the day that you spent on the road, because you spend more time on the road than what you actually spend at home. A little busy bee, this Rose what we've got down there in Mpumalanga. But that busy bee can sting, believe me. Just ask the shall I say, ask for other parties. Yeah, just ask them. They will tell you, stay away. Because if she stings you, it hurts, and it hurts terrible. But yeah, then I want to get one too. And this one, Tuesday, it was when Hermanus, Biz News, with seminary what we had for this week there. And on the opening day, they thought good and well to have the new ambassador of America to give him the platform a bit. Wow. And what a bee hornet's nest that he stirred up. Because the EFF, Dirko, everybody's, and he has been summoned to the principal's office. And it's not his principal, it's the South African principal. Yes, our minister, Ronald, have summoned him and said, come. We are not very happy with your undiplomatic remarks what you made there. You know, he had to go and explain it. And the only 5 things, actually what he said in a nutshell is he said, you know, America only made 5 demands on South Africa. Or 5 questions, let's put it, questions that they ask what they want answers on. That's all. That's all they want on those 5 points. And then he made the statement to say that kill the boer. He doesn't care what the courts in South Africa said, our constitutional court. According to him, it's still racist. It's still racist. And that made the EFF very cross. Ooh, Malema, he will rate when he's overall. He said, and I'm going to quote him, we may not get clarity on kill the boer, he says. That chant which is hate speech. I don't care what your court says. It is hate speech. Unquote. So, and when he carried on, he said, we also don't have clarity on the expropriation yet. And then he was also further critical on the black economic empowerment. Now, that 5 demands, just to bring it to out in the open again, is the Expropriation Act, the Black Economic Empowerment, the hate speech regarding the song Kill the Farmer, Kill the Boer, and the renewal of South African foreign policy. Now, for this he was called in because it was, according to South Africa, undiplomatic. And he was told to know certain words that you cannot say this. You cannot say this about courts. Out, we don't interfere and tell Trump how to run his country. We don't say what your courts need to say and how they need to bring, how I should hear their cases and that. But I want to make it quite clear from our side this evening. And maybe you as a panel may disagree with me. But yeah, for me, kill the boer, kill the farmer is hate speech. And I personally stand by that. And if Minister Lamola wants to call me into his office as well, he's welcome. He's more than welcome. I will even send him an email with my address if he wants to send a vehicle to come and fetch me. I don't care.
Oh, Prof, I'd like to come in over there. Out of all the things anybody could possibly be stupid enough to sing about is to kill the one thing or destroy the one thing that fills your stomach. Now that is not stupidity, it is pathetic stupidity. Something, Prof, if you wanted to, and which is wrong, but as a stupid analogy, if you were upset with the people that dictate the price of petrol, and people had to run around saying, kill the people who want to raise the price of petrol, it would be a laughing matter. But to actually kill the boer, kill the farmer, to kill the person that puts the groceries on the table, to put them in the shop, to ensure that you have food security is the most stupid thing you could ever possibly want to kill. It makes no sense whatsoever. And I have to agree with him. I don't believe that the court saying that it's not hate speech. Which court? Seriously, let's turn it around, Prof. And this is also a horrible thing to say. Let's only kill sugarcane farmers. All of a sudden that becomes hate speech. All of a sudden that becomes a genocidal act, saying that it's still a farmer. So this is what I find totally wrong. But I mean, you've also got to take into account somebody like Malema Pastor made a statement about 4 years ago saying, we're not interested in farmers. We get our groceries from the Spar or Checkers. That's how thick that little brick is. Square brick. He's not a very bright individual, but he is an antagonist. And I don't think that he actually realizes how important farmers are. And what farmers actually go through to put a plate of food on people's tables. He's up for hate speech now. And whatever's going to happen to Malema now when he gets sentenced, or if he gets sentenced, will create such a precedent that's either going to have the rest of the world coming down on South Africa like a ton of bricks, or they're going to start to see that this is starting to become a just nation, or a nation that is coming out of its infancy. This is it's an absolute mess. It's a horrible thing. Kill the boer, kill the farmer. And I'm sorry, Prof, the words are going to use not the right place to use them.
Ja, sorry Chris, ek wil ook hier inkom. Man, ons almal weet ou Malema is 'n idioot. Kom ons wees eerlik. He's an idiot. There's no two cents about it. Malema's an idiot. If he thinks he's going to get all his meat and groceries from the grocery store and there's no farmers left, I think he's the first one going to starve. My 2 cents.
Yeah, I mean, the Constitutional Court ruled that it's not hate speech, so that is what they are going on. But for me, it stays hate speech. But yeah, let's get to our main topic. Now, I myself, and I think and I'm sure plenty of our listeners who are tuned in this evening had experience regarding this some or other time in their life, where night has been disturbed by loud music. Dogs keep on barking, etc., etc. And when people say, but there is bylaws. Bylaws needs to be enforced. Yeah, right. What bylaws? Now, before I'm going to give us to the panel, I just want to give you the definition. What are the bylaws in South Africa? Now, this is what it's supposed to be. Remember, supposed to be. Bylaws are the legislation of a municipality, similar to the legislation made by the national. These bylaws are designed to maintain order, ensure public safety, and create harmonious living environments. I like that word, eh? What they say, it's supposed to create harmonious living environments. SABINET offers a broad collection of South African municipal bylaws in an easy-to-access centralized platform. Now, SABINET is a platform, a website which you can join, where we will give you all the bylaws from all the different municipalities, but it is at a cost. Now, bylaws we're talking about is like building and zoning regulations. Now, building and zoning regulation bylaws is to control building plans, land use, height restrictions, and structural safety. And part of that is your building codes and construction regulations, what forms part of it. And then zoning land use regulations, what is also part of that. Now, when you get your public health and nuisance bylaws, this regulations is regarding noise pollution, air quality, and public nuisance. And then, of course, noise control measures. Now, the noise control measures, those bylaws is in place to mitigate disturbances and maintain peace within communities. These regulations establish the permissional noise levels, quiet hours, and restrictions on excess noise from construction, industrial operations, and other activities. Now, the Occupational Health and Safety Act stipulates 85 decibels. That is your max. So that is also the max with the bylaws. After anything over 85 decibels, there need to be ear protection. Right. So then you get the waste management regulations. That's the regulations on refuse collection, recycling, and illegal dumping. Right. When you get something like the outdoor advertising and signage bylaws, and I mean last year we saw that Joburg actually enforced this when they took, I think it was at AfriForums, when they took their banner off with the G20. And so this bylaws control billboards, posters, and signs displayed in public view. Okay. Then you get traffic and parking bylaws. This governs parking zones, speed limits on local roads, and impounding of vehicle. And of course, it makes provision for the parking and traffic rules in that municipality. When you get your water and sanitation bylaws, that governs usage, restriction, and connection to municipal water services. Now, at this stage, we know we haven't got water, so they can't enforce that. Then you got property maintenance, and this is all about the property maintenance, cleanliness, and aesthetics of your property. So actually, there's a bylaw that says that your property needs to be clean at all times. Your grass needs to be short, nicely cut. Shouldn't be a rubbish dump, etc. and that. Then you got your business licensing and licensing bylaws that controls street trading, spaza shops, and formal business license. That includes home-based business regulations, what is part of that. Then the other subsection under that is licensing and permits. Then you got your public amenities and safety bylaws, rules for using parks, libraries, and public spaces. Then your fire safety bylaws, regulations of fire hazards, fire breaks, and safety standards in buildings. Then you got your animal control bylaws, regulating pet ownership, stray animals, and livestock in urban areas. Then there's apparently another one what I found. It's called the Credit Control and Debt Collection Bylaw. I never even knew this one existed, to be honest. It defines how a municipality collects payments for rates and services, including procedures for handling arrears. Then there's the Electricity Supply Bylaw, governs the legal connections to municipality grid, including requirements for embedded generations like solar and safety standards. Then the Street Trading Bylaws regulates informal trading, requiring permits for vendors and designated specific areas where businesses can be conducted to ensure pedestrian safety. Now, before I go to the panel, who who's supposed to enforce these bylaws in South Africa? And where we go to the constitution of this country. Because section 156(2) of the constitution authorizes municipalities to make an administrator bylaws regarding certain matters. If municipalities do not enforce bylaws, there may simply be no one enforcing them. And that's a fact. The Constitution doesn't enforce it that they should have bylaws, municipalities. It says it authorizes them to have to establish and to draw up bylaws. Now, Vincent have specifically asked for this evening that we can speak about bylaws, because he found something out very interesting down there in Port Elizabeth regarding bylaws. And this is not a unique problem only down there. This is a problem countrywide in the majority of municipalities. Vincent, I'm going to give you the floor, firstly, and to put your case to the panel regarding your research on these bylaws.
Thank you so much, Prof. Yeah, to start off, how I got to this whole thing about the bylaws is I'm busy at this moment right now. Just send another email through to the people here about our nature conservation areas. So what has happened is that these people came and they put shacks in nature conservation areas. Now, which is run by 2 wards, Ward 6 and Ward 7. So when I start making complaint about it and start checking this whole thing, whatever, why this whole shacks has been put into nature conservation area and nobody's doing anything about it. Nobody. Then a friend of mine phoned me and said, listen, Vince, check the bylaws. That is how I started with this whole bylaw thing. Check the bylaws on the couple of things for nature conservation area. That is just one small little area that has been running from Port Elizabeth, from the harbour, straight down to Greenbushes. Now, if you look on Google Maps, you will see how big the valley is, and that's all nature conservation area. So, you've got the fire department that needs to be involved in the nature conservation area. The environmental, human settlements, and so many more other things that has to come into this whole thing. But there's no bylaws basically protecting this whole thing because everybody's got their own small little department about it. So he says to me, listen here, just check the fire and safety because that is one of the biggest things if it comes to a nature conservation area. Now that's the National Veld and Forest Act of 100 of 1998. Now this is one of the major bylaws for when it comes to nature conservation areas. It's because of bushfires. As soon as the shack comes down there, they're going to make fire or chop the trees down or a bush, whatever, to make fire because, look, there's no electricity to cook. So what do? You make fire to cook. You're not allowed to do it. That act just on that one, we'll just get to this one. This is his thing that he came to me. This is an overview of the act of the Nelson Mandela Bay Fire Department that hasn't been complied since 1998. Now, the bylaws on these things, and some of them has not even been reassured or rechecked, whatever. So I spoke to a lady called Mbusi about it. I said, listen here, what's the problem and how come everybody's pushing this thing from pillar to post because nobody's following the bylaws? As soon as I start asking questions about the bylaws, she got like agitated and said, okay, wait. What do you mean about bylaws? How do you know about the bylaws? I said, no, I know about the bylaws. Because the bylaws for all your departments that has to handle this thing in the field of the nature conservation, you guys need to act upon it because the bylaws are there. I've read it. I've seen it. You come with excuses and you push this thing from pillar to post and nobody's dealing with this problem. So I started getting more into this whole thing, whatever, and then I checked the bylaws about the municipality for service deliveries and things, how things have to be reported, and so forth, and so forth, and so forth. The bylaws are not being followed. So now I think to myself, okay, we are only a small little dot on the South African map. How many out there in South Africa are bylaws being followed? Nobody's following the bylaws. Nobody's updating the bylaws. They had 2 weeks ago in Port Elizabeth, they had a meeting in which he sent them the video, which they had the meetings about the bylaws, that the bylaws has to be updated after I made noises about it. The bylaws are not being, I don't know what's happening to everywhere, because even the traffics, the bylaws about the traffic fines itself, which I've read, it's scary how these things are not being done. I think it's more about laziness, or they don't want to do anything about the bylaws because they know if the bylaws really have to be implemented and to everything that these municipalities or the government officials have to do, whatever, they are stuck because then they have to work to get these things done according to what the bylaw says. But nobody's following it anymore. And that's the problem in the whole South Africa. That is why South Africa is going down the drain, because the bylaws of the municipality, and you can take any place in South Africa, a big city or a small town, whatever, there is problems. The bylaws are so important. When I ask a person on the street, and I did it with 10 people, I've done it with 10 people, do you know what bylaws is? Some will say, what are you talking about? Some said, I've heard about it, but yeah. This is one guy that said, where can I find it? I said, Google it. You've got the right to know about the bylaws. There's a lot of people that just accept what's been given to them. But nobody takes the opportunity basically to say, listen here, I've got this noise pollution. What is my rights? Check the bylaws. Check who's responsible to attend to these problems. Because it is there, but it's not being followed. We've got a couple of cases here in Port Elizabeth with noise pollution, whatever. At the end of the day, nothing's been done because everything between the police and the Metro Police is not their story, it's not their problem. Everybody is like, they are hoping and praying that the problems will go away, and not by looking at the bylaws itself, because it's their responsibility for these bylaws to work, and it's not working. And that's the problem that I've got here. The bylaws are not being done, are not being checked, are not being updated, are not being given to the community to say, listen here, that's your right. And nobody's looking at it. So yeah, the bylaws needs to be addressed on a massive scale. People needs to be educated about the bylaws itself. And the oversight committees, whoever's in charge of seeing that these bylaws needs to be implemented to a problem that we've got, needs to be held accountable for this. Why is not being done? Okay, sorry. That problem is on this bylaw. You know this bylaw, so that problem needs to be sorted out according to this bylaw. If it's not been sorted out, whatever, then you're in trouble. You needs to be held accountable for that. But that's the problem. Nobody wants to implement or use the bylaws anymore. I can be wrong, but what I've read so far, what I've got so far, and what I've seen, bylaws are not being done. They are not being done in South Africa. Especially here where I am, in Port Elizabeth. It's chaos, and it's not working. Thank you, Prof.
Thank you, Vincent. Are there anyone of the panel who wants to come in here?
Dis prof, ek wil graag iets sê. Dit is baie goed wat Vincent sê is die ding. In die algemeen, as jy kan kyk reg oor Suid-Afrika, dat elke munisipaliteit en elke metro het hulle eie bylaw enforcer. Maar jy sien nooit daai bylaw enforcers nie. Al wanneer jy hulle sien is wanneer net voor verkiesing, wanneer hulle saam met die meier en die munisipale manager beweeg, of as daar nou byvoorbeeld gestryk word in 'n area. Hulle is daar om te verseker dat die gemeenskap nie die meier of die munisipale manager se kop in mekaar slaan as hulle kwaad is oor dienslewering nie. Maar verder doen hoe bylaw enforcers niks. Jy sien hulle nêrens nie. Hulle is veronderstel om al hierdie wette te enforce en hulle doen dit glad nie. Die oomblik wanneer ons as die United Independent Movement inkom in die posisies as die mense ons daar sit, kan ons verseker dat hierdie tipe dinge nie oorgesien word nie en dat almal in plek kry en die reël regulasies en bylaw enforced.
Prof, can I just say something?
Yes, sure, Ivan.
Yeah, remember your bylaws are basically your primary legislation in a local council because they only have the prerogative to make bylaws. They can't even delegate that function to anybody else. So the bylaws are not going to work on its own. When people say that the public is not aware of it, the question is whose responsibility is to make the public aware of it. Normally, I would talk for the Durban Metro. The bylaws are freely available on the website. And you got your building bylaws, and I've used that. I've emailed the responsible officials, and they do enforce it. It's difficult, again, we need to be realistic that a municipality cannot know every infringement of every bylaw that's there. It's in place, but we as the ratepayers have to bring it to their attention. And predominantly it will be your police department if they have that, or the protection services that are the enforcement agencies. And yes, there's nothing stopping the ratepayer from asking for these bylaws to be reviewed on an annual basis, because the bylaws have to be constantly updated. And, so we can use the petition process for that. So our hands are not tied to say, no, we cannot be part of it. And remember, your executive committee meetings of a council are open to the public. And it's time that the ratepayers exercise that more freely and not only look at attending the full council meeting, because at the executive council level, you probably can even ask for permission to speak. So yes, there are some processes available to interrogate these things. Thank you.
Thank you, Ivan. Yeah, what we actually have done on this side, here in Mfuleni, is that we actually wrote a letter and asked, we want to know who's the administrator over the bylaws in this area. To who has that been allocated to by the municipal manager? So that we can get it in writing to know who to take to task. And when I ask them, we also have asked them, we want proof how they did actually disseminate it and inform the public in this area, in Mfuleni, about the bylaws. And they said, you know what, it's on our website. It is public, it's public domain. Everybody can go and look there, they can go and download it, etc. and etc. But unfortunately, people are strange characters. If you don't put it down their throats, they will not eat it. So they will not go and look for it until it hits where it hurts. When it hits where it hurts, then people want to realize and ask, is there something that I can do? And sometimes when it's too late. And as Clara I've said, yes, if we get the opportunity and the residents of South Africa in the different municipalities, in the different wards where the UIM candidates will be standing as representatives, as councillors, if they get a chance to get into council, being voted in, when they can make a change from the inside regarding these bylaws. Because this is not a unique problem only for Port Elizabeth or for Mfuleni or for Alberton or Boksburg or Centurion, you name it. This is a problem right across South Africa. Anyone else who wants to give any...
Prof, yes, I think one thing I get asked quite regularly by people, why the UIM? They're such a small party. Why do you, why do I do the videos for the UIM? Why do I stand for the UIM? And people have got to realize that the UIM is the only political party that wants to actually educate the people of South Africa as to what their rights are, what they can do. I mean, people, for example, don't even know that they have the right to request what are the municipalities doing with the money that they pay as ratepayers. They aren't even aware that they are allowed to do that until you explain to them, well, you do pay the municipality and you have the right to ask. And this is the thing that South Africa and a lot of people need to understand about the UIM. When we say transparency, we mean transparency, everything about it. So, I know it's going off at a bit of a tangent here, but I'm sure Crystal will agree with me. We're the only untainted party, and no party out there can say that they want total transparency, they want everything open and on the table, and we want our constituents, citizens of South Africa, to not only be educated in school, but educated in how the law and government works. Because we are a government that, we want to be a government for all the people of the country. Therefore, all the people of this country need to be educated in what the government is doing with our money and how bylaws work and how laws work and how statutes work. So it's very important that people understand that the reason for these shows and the reason for the UIM is that we are sick and tired of government hiding, taking, stealing, plundering, removing everything and keeping the South African citizen blind to that. And we do not, as the UIM, stand for that. We stand for the transparency thereof.
Yeah, Chris, talking about that, a thought came to mind that maybe the Minister of Education should change the curriculum. And instead of sexual education, change it to educate our children on the laws and acts of this country. And things like bylaws and that, so that they can be prepared when they enter the adult world and know what their rights are and really not are. I think...
I agree with you. The worst thing a corrupt government wants is an educated people. So that is what they fear most, is an educated voter base, an educated citizen, because the educated citizen will hold them accountable.
Yeah, I just need to interrupt you quickly. I see I've got a message to ask, where is the president? My fault, my bad, I forgot. We jumped off with a speed this evening. Our president, Jacques Talliot, apologized that a last minute thing came up, but he couldn't join us this evening. He will be back next week. So apologies for that. But yeah, nothing happened to him. He's still fine. He's breathing. He's healthy. He's everything. And especially after last night's Facebook Live, I only had the opportunity to watch it today. So those of you who haven't done it yet, please go and look, because I actually wanted to speak to this evening, wanted him just to give us a brief summary of why do small parties actually matter. And I think maybe our SG, Christo, can maybe give us a little bit of overview on that. Because DA, Freedom Front Plus, everybody comes out now and said, don't vote for the smaller parties. And I actually, this morning on my program, I actually made this point to say that if we just look at the Government of National Unity, all the parties what are part of that. There are only two parties who are a bit of, not big parties, because we're not big anymore, is the ANC and the DA, but they still needed now the small parties to have been able to form the government of national unity. So, how do we put now the one by the other? Hoe sal hulle sê, hoe sit jy die kloukie by die oor hierso, né? So vir my is hulle almal klein partye dan daar's in die regering vir nasionale eenheid. Christo, ek weet nie, wil jy bietjie met ons bietjie gesels oor dit wat Jacques oor gesels het, as jy nie omgee nie.
Ja, Prof, ek dink die belangrikste wat mense vergeet van 'n klein party is ons is die kingmakers. Weet, ons een stemmetjie kan help om 'n redelike verskil te maak. Maar ek bedoel, weet, ek kan nie vreeslik baie sê soos wat Jacques oor gepraat hoe belangrik dit is vir mense om vir ons te stem nie, maar ons kan oornag op een dag kan ons ook 'n ordentlike oppositieparty word. Ons kort net die befondsing om daar te kom, want al die ander partye teen wie ons beklei word groot befonds. So al ons mense in die klein party sorg maar vir hulle dinge uit hulle eie sak uit. Karl hardloop rond, sy spend daarby op die UIM. Dieselfde met al die mense wat ons het, met petrol, dinge. So ja, dit gaan moeilik. Maar ja, ons moet iewers te kom en ek glo en ek weet en vertrou dat hierdie verkiesing wat kom, gaan ons 'n goeie impak maak. Want ons is basies die enigste party wat vir die mense is, deur die mense. So en ons, soos ons sê, weet, ons naam staan vir United and Independent, en as 'n movement kan ons saam staan en hierdie land verander. Jy weet, al die goed wat ons oor gepraat het, Prof, en jy weet, ons is nou 'n klein partytjie, maar dit is so belangrik. Ons praat oor die munisipale wette. Hoekom word dit nie in plek gehou nie? Want daar is nie mense in plek om dit in plek te hou nie. Die probleem is, daar is nie meer gesondheidsinspekteur nie en sy span nie. Daar is nie meer, weet, die ouens wat kom kyk as jy bou, die klerk van werke nie. Daar's net niks van dit nie. Weet, ons weet, soos jy gesê het, ons weet nie waar word die geld gespandeer nie, maar as mens net na daai dinge kyk en kyk hoeveel munisipaliteite in die land is, kan ons onmiddellik 3000 ekstra topposisies hê wat alreeds voorbetaal word, maar die geld gaan nêrens nie. Maar weer eens, om 'n klein party te wees, en ek dink, weet, dis baie frustrerend om te sê ons is 'n klein party. Ons wil nie eintlik 'n klein party wees nie, want ek weet, ons klein party kan hierdie land totaal en al change na 'n positiewe land na die beloofde land toe. So Prof, jy weet, Jacques het nou gisterand hele lang tyd daaroor gepraat, maar ja, so my kortpunt is net, ons is op die oomblik die kingmakers, en ons maak dinge gebeur. Ek kan sien met Carla, en ek kan sien met Vincent, en ek kan sien, oral waar ons mense betrokke is, het ons irriteer die vet uit die ander mense uit. Ek bedoel, ek het nou net begin in wijk 38 van Alberton, ek gaan nou vir die wijk doen, en ek volg nou vir Carla en Vincent en die mense. Maar hierso is die DA in plek. Weet, ons het die wijk hierso is 'n DA-member. Maar hiervoor in my straat, lyk dit in die oggend of mense soos 'n slang hier deurseil, soos die slaggate hier is. Daai man is nêrens beskikbaar nie, ek kry hom nêrens in die hande nie, maar die mense gaan aan. En die slaggate is nie meer slaggatjies nie. Dis nou slaggate, ernstige probleme. So ek bedoel, weet, ons praat van klein partytjies, maar groot partye doen absoluut niks vir die mense nie. Ek bedoel, hierso, ek is besig om navorsing te doen of te kyk hoeveel complaints al, want jy weet, hier's 'n skool in die straat. Hier is honderde complaints al gedoen, maar die DA is nêrens te sien nie. So ek bedoel, weet, ons is miskien 'n klein partytjie, maar ek dink die partytjie gaan bietjie verander by die volgende verkiesing.
Ja, dit is, ja, jy weet, Christo, dit, maar daar is ook nou al bewyse, oor die laaste paar jaar, in munisipaliteite, waar klein partye werklik ware impak gemaak het, ook in hierdie munisipaliteite, waar daar nie samewerkings of koalisies kon gevorm geword het, sonder daai klein partye nie, en waar daai mense, daai verteenwoordigers van daai klein partye, werklik waar 'n verskil laat maak het, in die munisipaliteite. En jy weet, jy praat so van die groot partye wat missing in action is. Dan bring dit my terug na Helen Ziller, wat sy die week uitgereik het, en the statement she made in the press is, politics destroyed Johannesburg. Politics will fix Johannesburg. I don't agree on that. The people is the only ones who can fix Johannesburg. The people is the only ones who can fix Bethel. The people is the only ones who can fix Alberton, Mfuleni, Port Elizabeth, East London. Doesn't matter which town. It's the people who's got the power to fix it, not politicians. And as you said,
jy sien prof wat 'n groot probleem is vir my, weet, en ek is nou jammer, ek is nou nie in hierdie ding, Karla. Ek kan voel jou passie in hierdie goede. Weet jy wat is die grootste nagmerrie vir my van dit? Dis asof ons mense eenvoudig pateties lam geraak het. Weet, in hierdie area waar ek bly is daar 7000 kiesers geregistreer. 7000. Die laaste munisipale verkiesing, weet jy hoeveel het gaan stem? 1200. Hoe belaglik is dit nie? Dan sê ons die ANC is in beheer en dis in beheer. Sommige die mense eenvoudig net, ek weet nie, lampsagtig geraak het, ons hulle bietjie lewendig kry.
Ja, dit is maar ongelukkig die probleem, en ek dink ons gaan dit met die volgende verkiesing weer sien. Maar ja, Alvin?
Yeah, Prof, I like what you said about politics can't fix it. It's only the ratepayers. And this is one of the things I'm going to be discussing in my video series, because the political parties have taken away the electorate, or rather the ratepayers, from this whole debate, and they're making it a debate amongst themselves, which is not fair. They're even insulting the ratepayers. This came up in our local government law lectures yesterday, and it was becoming very clear that slowly the ratepayers are being muscled out of the system, because if you look at the recent intergovernmental intervention bill, the ratepayers are not featured. It only speaks to the council and the MEC declaring a section 139, for example, an administrative intervention at the municipality. And yet, the reality is that if there was no ratepayers, the municipality will not exist. So yes, when they're talking about politics are going to fix it, politics is what destroyed everything, and it's left up to the civil movement and the ratepayers to put it right. So I'm not sure what they're smoking, but they need to stop smoking that. Thanks.
Thank you, Alvin. Vince?
Yes, Prof.
Ja, ek het eers het vir mense gevra wat in die politieke velde is. En ek sê vir hulle, wat is government? En almal kom toe met hierdie silly answers op. En ek sê vir hulle toe almal, julle is almal verkeerd. Government is die mense vir wie jy vir jou vote. Want as hy persoon vir jou sê, daar's 'n gat, daar's 'n pothol, daar's 'n pyp wat gebars is, jy wat as councillor is, of waarin jy posisie is, moet sien dat dit regkom. Want die taxpayer, ratepayers, is die persoon wat in charge is. Sê hulle met die polisie, ek het dit vir die polisie ook gesê. Sê julle moet weet, afkom van julle pedestal waar julle is, en vir die mense sê, hulle mag nie sake oopmaak nie, en jy vir hulle sê, wat moet dit doen? Nee, dit werk nie so nie. As die persoon op die stasie kom en hy maak 'n saak, dan sê jy, thank you sir, what's your problem, how can I help you? Nie die persoon wegwys nie. En selfs met al die ander goeders. Die taxpayer is die persoon wat sê, jep, Kosie, kom nader, hy pyp 'n stuk het, ek wil dit reg hê. Kosie, kom hierso, dan gaan, maak dit reg. My straatlig werk hier. Die goed word nie opgetel nie. Hierdie bome is nie reg nie. Dan moet hulle dit uitsorteer. Maar die ding is dat government op die oomblik is nou in reverse gear. Hulle laat die community by die taxpayers as peasants voel. So as jy ook kom, ek het 'n probleem, nee, hou jou mond stil, een kant, ek sal na jou toe kom en ek wil daarna kom. En dit is die redenasie wat hierdie mense het, en ek sien dit baie hier in Port Elizabeth. Ek sien dit baie, dan word gebel en sê, Vincent, help my, en sê, no problem, ek gaan vinnig help. Dan vind ek uit, weet jy, wat is die probleem nou eintlik? Hoekom wil julle nie mense help nie? Maar dit is die probleem wat daar so is. Dankie.
Dankie, Vince. Yeah, you know that actually last night on that meeting, I also said to the community that they need to start to realize they are their employers. Government officials are their employees, and they need to stand up for that. Clara, ja.
Ja, presies wat ek sê. Hierdie mense werk vir ons nie, ons vir hulle nie. Hulle dink hulle kan ons se poep voer, al om die tweede dag. Ons is geregtig om ons sê te sê, maar vra jy vir hulle, wat doen jy met ons geld, dan sê hulle vir jou hier te kort en daar te lank. Hulle spandeer geld op allerhande onsinnighede en nie op die regte dinge nie. As jy sien, dan koop hulle vloot nuwe karre, maar jy sien hulle nooit nie. Ons moet hulle verantwoordelik hou. Dit is ons werk. Dit is waarvoor ek beklei vir my dorp. Want ek hou hulle verantwoordelik. Ek hou daarvan om 'n doring in hierdie mense se vlees te wees. Ek hou daarvan om hulle te laat opstaan met 'n nare gevoel op die maag in die oggende. Ek hou daarvan. Ten minste is ek daar 'n bietjie gewild. Ek maak iemand siek en ek krap sy dag om. En ek sal aanhou om dit te doen, want hierdie dorp, Bethel, en elke ander dorp in hierdie land verdien beter. Ons verdien mense wat vir ons werk en nie vice versa nie.
Ja, dit is, jy weet, en ek wil terugkom wat Christo vroeër gesê het, jy weet, met die UIM. United. We are people who got together united and became united as independent people, as a movement. We're not politicians. We're not politicians. And even when we do get elected into local government, we're still going to be a movement. We unfortunately had to register this movement as a political party, but that's where it ends. We're still not politicians. And we will stay servants of our communities and the people of this country. Doesn't matter where we end up, because that is what our constitution says in the end of the day. And those who's going to break that, who gets in the positions and think that all of a sudden now I'm a politician, we're going to be in for a big surprise, because for us, the people comes first, and that is how we're going to keep it. And yes, we need to realize, really, the listeners out there needs to realize that these people are working for you, not the other way around. The time have come that we need to stand up. Stand up. As each and every person, doesn't matter which faith you follow, what faith you believe in, as you stand up for your faith and your rights, so you need to stand up for your rights in your community, in the municipality where you are. Instead of sitting on a couch, moaning and groaning on a WhatsApp group, or a Telegram group, or on Facebook, get up and do something. Do something about it. Join a movement. Join an activist movement. But start to do something. Show your support in that community and say, I'm taking my community back. And that is what is important at the end of the day. Because if we're not going to start doing it, I can promise you there is no future for any one of our children, neither their children or their children either. None. The future of this country will have no future if we do not start right now to start taking back what rightfully belongs to us as ratepayers of this country. Right. I want to go around the panel and start to slowly but surely wind it down. And I'm going to start, Ivan, with you. I'm going to give you a couple of minutes for some closing remarks and maybe just some advice what you got for the listeners this evening, how to better their lifestyle when they battle with those local governments.
Thank you for that, Prof. I think quite clearly the UIM has demonstrated that people have rights. And more we're showing that the UIM, being considered a small party, is making big inroads into things that really matter. Watch the space. There's more things coming through. What caught my eye this evening as we were on air, I see that the ANC is blaming the decline on spiritual warfare. They're talking about having literally house cleansed spiritually now. And I think, that's really great for small parties like us now, because these big parties are now actually, what's the right word now? They're very concerned about what's happening to the declining support base. And it's all their own fault. It's nobody else's fault. So yes, we're going to make the most inroads with that decline. Trust me on that. Watch the space. Thank you.
Thank you for that. Ja, Clara, wil jy volgende gaan?
Ja, prof, ek wil maar net sê, dis tyd dat ons dorpe terugvat, ons munisipaliteite terugvat en 'n verskil maak. Ek glo as elke Suid-Afrikaanse burger opstaan vir dit wat reg is en die regte besluite maak, kan ons land weer herstel. Die ANC het hom nou genoeg vir 30 jaar plus vernietig en ons is nou gatvol daarvoor. Moenie gatvol raak vir ons nie, raak gatvol saam met ons.
Amen vir daai ene. Right, Vince, jy's aan die woord.
En ek wil net aan die luisteraars dit sê, moenie stop om te beklei nie. Gebruik jou voice om uit te gaan en te gaan soek vir die waarheid. Jy moet gehelp word. En moenie vir dat hulle vir jou sê hulle kan nie help nie. Beklei vir dit wat jy wil hê. Want dit is die enigste manier hoe ons die land gaan terugvat. En ons kort julle om saam met ons te staan op die UIM om 'n verskil te kan maak. Ons moet die land terugvat. Laat ons hom kan ry en regmaak vir die generasie, vir jou kind op buitekant, om 'n beter lewe te kan maak. Dankie, prof.
Baie dankie. Nou ja, kom ons gaan vra vir ons sekretaris-generaal Christo Jonk vir sy opsomming vir ons.
Prof, ek wil dit toch net duidelik stel dat de ambassadeur praat namens sy regering en nie namens homself nie. So elke woord wat Boyzell geuiter het, kom direk van sy meerdere af, so van sy regering af. En of hulle nou die Amerika op die rooi tapijt wil sit, hoe lagwekkend kan dit wees. So dis niks persoonlik wat hy gedoen het nie, hy het net die waarheid gepraat en namens sy regering gepraat. En dis waar dit staan. Nou ja, die ander ding wat ek het is, ons sal sekerlik agterkom, daar's iemand wat die poppetjies laat dans of hanteer, dat hulle so arrogant is. Maar ja, terug te kom na die munisipaliteite toe. Ek wil net die mense daar buite moet net 'n mental besluit neem. Dat die jaar is die jaar wat ek gaan stem. Maak nie saak hoe of wat nie, maar die jaar moet ons gaan stem. En ons moet asseblief ons kinders wat in plaas met skool en gaan klaarmaak met skool registreer. En hulle educate. Ons moet regtig 'n poging aanwend dat as die ou mense of nie lekker voel om te gaan vote nie, dat ons die jong mense kry om te gaan vote. Maar hoe meer ek kyk en kyk in die IEC en navorsing doen oor hoeveel geregistreerde stemme nie stem nie. Dit is absoluut ons eie stupidity hoekom ons in so 'n situasie is. Mense moet gaan stem. Ek vra groot asseblief vir die luisteraars. En hulle moet elkeen vanaand met iemand praat en daai iemand praat met iemand en daai iemand praat met iemand, het ons teen einde van die week het ons 20,000 nuwe stemmers. So ek dink dit is belangrik. Ons moet praat, mekaar ondersteun. Jy weet, ek het gisteraand hierdie goed klaar werk ons ook met die seniors. Ek droom gisteraand, ons is in die munisipaliteit en ek organiseer vir elke huis 'n sak van hierdie teer om hulle pothou vir hulle huis weg te maak. En ook almal die tapaai regmaak en braaivleis hou en so. Maar ek dink dis die tipe van community wat ons het. Ons kan hierdie land fix baie gou. So geseënde aan vir al die luisteraars en geseënde aan vir al ons hardwerkende UIM slawe. Ek is seker ons sal 'n result kry, 'n goeie result kry. Dankie julle.
Baie dankie, Christo. Yeah, talking about that, before I go to Chris, I've got a message here from the Deputy Chair from Mfuleni, also the leader for the local elections for Gauteng, gentleman by the name of Benjamin Honeyball. And he says, evening all, I would like to send a message to all. Every pothole, every burst pipe, every missed refuse collection, these things are decided by the municipality. But here is the truth. If you are not registered to vote, you have no say in who runs your municipality. And that is the truth. Registering is not about politics. It is about your water, your roads, your safety, and your future. If you want change in your community, it starts with one simple step. Register for the upcoming municipal elections. Because if you don't choose your future, somebody else will choose it for you. Register for the registration weekend have been officially announced yesterday, and it is in June this year, the 20th and the 21st, the weekend of the 20th and the 21st of 2026. So, there you've got it, out of the mouth of Benjamin, and that's the truth what he says. If you don't vote, then strictly speaking, you've got no say in the municipality. Then you mustn't complain and groan and moan about anything. Then you have to accept it if you've got load shedding. Then you have to accept it if you haven't got water. Then you have to accept it if there's no refuge collections. Then you have to accept it if there's a lot of potholes in front of your driveway. Because you didn't vote. Chris.
Yeah, Prof, the function of the government is just two very simple things. One, to be able to feed your population, and two, to be able to keep your population safe. Those are the two mandated outlines that are the most important things. The other things are water, sanitation, housing, this, that, and the next thing. But you've got to be able to keep them safe. I don't think that the ANC government can keep us safe. They pray that we don't ever have a war or we're not invaded by the Sky or the Lesotho, because there aren't enough rubber ducks and canoes and duck wings. So we're going to avoid a war. And secondly, this evidently at Letuli House, there's a little short Greek guy. He's 5'7". He's with the UIM. He's running around there like a tokolosh, bringing bad luck in his name. He's Chris, and he's the spokesperson for the UIM, and he's running up and down those floors at Letuli House, and hy maak nie droog. So yes, my Moonish of the week is the whole of the ANC chasing after this little tokolosh.
Oh, thank you for that one. And yeah, I want to add to that. One bread, one family. Don't forget about that one. And I'm going to leave it with that this evening, because apparently they ran out of money to give proper food parcels.
And they've changed the white bread to black too.
Ja, that as well. Thank you for that one. Nou ja, listeners, thank you very much. Baie dankie dat julle ingeskakel was vanaand. Ons waardeer dit opreg wat julle so getrou elke week na week inskakel. En as daar enige onderwerpe is wat julle graag wil hoor wat ons moet aanspreek, enige moontlike wetgewings en soos meer, laat weet my maar gerus hier op die ateljee se nommer op 079-678-0510 en ons doen dit met graagte. Tot volgende week, selfde tyd, selfde plek, dan ons weer terug saam met julle. Van my kant af, van die paneel se kant af, sê ons vir julle 'n geseënde aand. Stay safe, stay blessed. Till next week.
Father, we thank you for your guidance with the discussions on the program this evening. Lord, be with each and everyone throughout the weekend and week until we gather again. Bless every listener in Jesus' name. Amen.